but they couldn't make heads or tails of them. You can't do things at one time. It's out of the question. Did them one by one. Bob, don't disturb her. Mind your own business, he whispered. If you persist bothering her like that, she'll lose her temper. He also charged that he couldn't resist temptation. Stop making a fuss. It's really gets on my nerves, she shouted. There's no point to talking back to Nick. He's a dictator, so to speak. They are very polite in his presence, but actually, they're always talking about behind his back. You despise Nick, don't you? On the contrary, I look up to him. His constant insults aroused her anger. I'm fed up with just shuffling papers, pouring coffee. I've made up mind to quit. In reality, many people have difficulty making ends meet. How can I get by on 100,000 a year months? Female classmates will complain about the routines, which are not challenging at all. Thanks to fundamental restructuring, our surplus has swelled threefold. Many people today think of loyalty to a company as an absurd notion. I have to commute all the way from distant suburb. I'm sick of it. I went to spend the rest of my life pursuing my ideals. After retirement, Leda devoted herself to caring for orphans. For the sake of children in need, we cooperated to collect donations. Their charity named after a man who gave away some 2 billion yen. His autobiography was released today and sold out by noon. Ted, who is often referred to as the man of integrity, is gonna run for mayor. The candidate was disappointed about the outcome of the election. The municipal council should consider the more specific issues. This is the case that those who live on a pension forced to lead a hard life. We should believe that this data is far from accurate. We tend to associate politicians with hypocrisy. They are primarily concerned with exploiting us, not with enhancing our living standards. Van Rasper once exerted a dominant influence on the Conservative Party, but now his power is diminishing. The spokesperson refused to make any comment, saying that it's under investigation. The police said there are someone pulling strings behind the scenes. The executive entertained bureaucrats at Ryote or exclusive Japanese restaurant, hoping for something in return. His secretary flatly denied leaking any confidential information. No one dared to contradict his or her employer for fear of being fired. He sacrificed his promising career to retain his dignity. I might contradict myself and reconcile myself to my fate. He was about to commit suicide by swallowing poison, but when he thought better of it, the vague rumor proved to be false. Nevertheless, some skepticism lingers on. The senior official was suspected of accepting bribes from the company, but there isn't sufficient evidence to arrest him. Jason, who was in charge of the project, was dismissed for corruption. To my knowledge, he had not involved in the fraud scheme. They found out the truth exam while examining a pile of relevant documents. During the trial, it came to light that they had been covering up illegal transactions for decades. The detective took down his testimony on the spot, word for word. For the first time in my life, I felt a pang of conscience, but there was no other way out. I am still haunted by a vivid nightmare I had last night. Landlords reporters don't hesitate to intrude on one's privacy. They also revised his manuscript over and over again. He is second to none when it comes to finding fault with others. On the whole, the editor not sensitive to criticism. When the tabloid revealed that he was a drug addict, his reputation was all but ruined. They considered aspects of the defense program and pointed out the numerous flaws. We will not tolerate anyone who engages in terrorism. Naturalist level was ultimately captured and confined to jail. Troops were swiftly called in to put down the riot. We should have put reason instead of resorting to violence. I suggest we adapt reflective tactics for the moment. The armed forces succeeded in occupying the entire territory. Under the circumstances, the enemy had no choice but to surrender. They can't hold out any longer. Sooner or later, the hostages will be set free. Under the reign of tyranny, innocent people were deprived of their citizenship. Some soldiers were reluctant to obey the command. This regime was bound to collapse. The Allies condemned the invasion as a violation of UN resolutions. We cannot rule out the possibility that civil war will break out in that country. The colony declared independence and became a republic. An immense monument was dedicated to the honor of the noble patriot. He got on his knees and prayed for the souls of the deceased. The Supreme Court is located near the Imperial Palace. The protest groups protested against the ban on abortion. Senator Ford remained neutral in the bitter controversy. Ford has been in a difficult situation all week long. He is no longer capable of coping with it. The summit also to be broadcast simultaneously throughout the world. The different dialogue helped to put an end of the conflict. Johnson was appointed as goodwill ambassador to foster mutual understanding between the two nations. The specialists predict international tension will build up. In my opinion, permanent peace is nothing but an illusion. Ethnic minorities struggle against prejudice, poverty, and oppression. We must make every effort to avoid all discrimination. The immigrant endured physical and mental pain. The environment rejected was it didn't take diversity into account. Needless to say, the refugees are longing for freedom. According to surveys, 3 in 5 people today are indifferent to foreign affairs. What will become of the Japan-US relations if the security treaty expires? Unless Japan eliminates its unfair tariffs, the US will impose sanctions. Trade fix might arise between the two nations at any moment. Our top priority is to settle this dispute once and for all, so we are ready to meet them halfway. The federal budget narrowly approved by Congress. He argues that the administration must look for alternative sources of revenue. Opposes that overwhelming majority are favorable of legislation. The, the cops are searching for clues to the brutal murder. The man was insane. He can distinguish vice from virtue. The fingerprints on the weapon correspond with the suspect. It took us all by surprise when the noted psychologist was accused of kidnapping. The jury's guilty verdict gave rise to a widespread debate. The man pleaded for mercy, but he was sentenced to 20 years in prison for his crime. The officer on duty perceived the elderly man coming up behind him. He caught the sight of the thief attempting into breaking the house. The day before yesterday, he witnessed a weird incident in the wilderness. I became aware someone stared at me across the aisle, so I turned around, but there was no one in sight. She screamed with horror while someone took hold of her arm. Informed of her safety, he breathed a sigh of relief. The bullet penetrated his chest, leaving him in critical condition. At present, it is still uncertain whether it is done deliberately by overreaction. The day caught fire and burned down, leaving a heap of ashes. All of a sudden, a fireworks warehouse exploded and it took 2 days to put out the blaze. A bomb went off in the 30-story building and more than 50 people were seriously wounded. A cargo vessel bound to Ostend sank in the Mediterranean without a trace. The wreckers froze to death during the expedition to the Antarctic. The tragedy must be remembered so as not to be repeated. The exhibition offered profound insight into ancient civilization. Giotto is credited to sowing the seeds to the Italian Renaissance. Bob mounted a portrait in a fancy frame, but it was upside down. This magnificent cathedral dates back to the Middle Ages. Ancient religion inspired him to create splendid sculptures. They explored the desert in search of the buried treasure. The Middle East is acquiring the masterpiece, no matter how much it cost. News and legend should be handed down from generation to generation. The linguist is fluent in several Chinese dialects. The tribe worships its ancestors and speaks its own language, which is not familiar to us. The anthropologist says that all the customs still prevail in the province. The wicked witch cast an evil spell on the man and turned him into a bag. They proceeded along a steep path. which had sole access to the border. When a big wave emerged from the cave, they got frightened and ran away. Believe it or not, I saw an alien, and then it vanished.